Alright, so I haven't actually played with this stuff in a long time. I think... Ah! We have a visitor, hold on. He's been sleeping all day, and of course he chooses my stream to come out and say hi. So, this is Blender. He's a brain-damaged alligator lizard. I always have something weird in my streams. This is his little bed that he sleeps in. Come on, buddy. I know you want to come out, but you have to go back in for a little bit, or I'm gonna put you back in your cage. Hi, baby. I didn't brain damage him. I swear I found him this way. I thought he was gonna die. He was in our garden. And there was like blood coming out of his ear, and they have very visible eardrums, and it was ruptured. You could actually see this fat hole in his eardrum, and something, I don't know if something dropped him or what, but I thought he was gonna die, and I put him in a cardboard box and just, yeah, he's asleep. It's a Nintendo DS case, actually. It just looks like a holster. But yeah, I thought he was gonna die, so I put him in a cardboard box and just left him, and every day that I looked at him, the hole in his eardrum kind of started closing up, and it eventually totally healed, but he obviously has permanent brain damage. He can't eat by himself, usually, so he's just my little friend now. I don't mind hand-feeding him and stuff, it's fine. He's a goofball, he's pretty funny. He doesn't know which way is up, which is kinda silly. Oh, he just sneezed. Okay, so anyway, the stuff that I have here, and I'm not exactly sure what I want to use yet. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to use this Magic-Sculpt. I don't know how many people are watching right now. I can't see because I'm on OBS right now. But I'm just gonna describe some of this stuff before I start working with it. This is all different, like, foam putties and clay and all that, and what I'm gonna be doing tonight is, doing the way that I did his teeth. Like I said, I made this costume when I was, oh gosh, 19, maybe? 18, somewhere around there. It was 2014. I was 19, I think, or 20. And I haven't changed his face at all. His face is the same as when I made him back then. So he still has, like, the fur is all glued together, actually. You can't really see it. I mean, fortunately, he's all black. Let me, I can actually grab the camera and you guys can see him a little bit better here. Let me, is my light turned on? Yes. So you can see, like there's a fat seam right here and stuff. But, like, you have to get really close to see it. His eyes don't have any eyelids or anything, and they're just, like, glued around, and he's not the greatest thing ever that I've made, but he's special to me because I've had him for a long time. I won a costume contest with him when I was 19 or something, and yes, I am wearing a Chucky shirt. So I might actually just leave this on, or no, never mind, because then you can't see this stuff. So yeah, he's special to me. He's an older costume, but I thought I'd fix him up a little bit. I had this black NF Tech fur that I haven't been using for anything. I was gonna use it for McKinley, my persona, Wendigo, but it didn't have the kind of texture that I wanted, and I was like, it kind of looks like a werewolf. So I actually replaced, a couple months ago, I replaced his longer hair with this NF Tech. I'll turn on this so you can actually see it. And his mouth opens and everything, and his tongue actually moves because it's only glued down in the back, so his tongue's kind of floppy, which is cool. It's a taxidermy tongue. He has a taxidermy bear tongue, actually. And I did redo his ears, too, because his ears were kind of falling apart. So these have, like, it's not NFT on the inside of his ears, actually. It was just monster fur from some other website. and seal fur for the backs of his ears, so it looks a little bit more like skin. Same thing with his face. It is all fur. Obviously, if I make a werewolf now, it's gonna have like silicone, so it's gonna be flesh-like, but like I said, I made him almost 10 years ago now, so he's an old man. And I'm gonna be, his teeth I did not make well at all. They're Sculpey, or, God, back then it might have been some off-brand of Sculpey. And the gums are actually hot glue, I'm not kidding. I would like mold hot glue around the Sculpey teeth, which worked surprisingly well. I mean, like, it doesn't look that bad, but it doesn't hold them in very well, because like once the teeth, like this one is really loose, you can see how it's, or can you see how it's, that's a little better. It's kind of twisting on there. So what I'm gonna do is just redo his gums, and I guess probably some of his teeth, or just add a little bit more detail to his teeth tonight. See how far I get, you know, by 11 o'clock or something. And I have, for doing this, I have a bunch of different putties here, and this is probably what I'm gonna use as Magic-Sculpt. It's a 2-part putty, so you have to mix these together equally. This is a resin, and it's really hard. Like, you can drill through it, you can sand it, it's really cool. The only downside to it, besides it being kind of expensive, is it weighs a lot when it's completed. But since this guy's head is just on my head, and not like, you know, out on some articulated neck or something, it kind of doesn't matter, and I'm not going to be using very much of it anyway, so I'm probably just going to use this stuff. But I wanted to just show you guys my other options for this, because some of this is interesting stuff that is kind of hard to find, especially this stuff, because TNT is usually out of it every time I check, especially the black colored stuff, if I recall. But this is a lot lighter. It's single part, which is cool in and of itself. You don't have to sit there and mix it. I have had issues with this stuff in the past in that it looked kind of deflated, I guess, when it finally dried, but it was my first time using it. I'm not really sure, you know, if something weird could have happened. And it also takes a long time to dry, 24 to 48 hours. It didn't actually take that long last time, but it stayed with that weird deflated look. So I'm not really sure about this stuff, which is why I'm not going to use it on him right now, but I figured, you know, I might mention it as an option if you can actually find it, because it is really cool. It doesn't weigh anything. You can, it can be applied directly to EVA foam, which is really neat. And it has a really weird texture. See if I can get it out here. It's in a baggie in here too. But it's pretty interesting stuff. It's, you know, it's... I keep forgetting where my camera is now. I moved it somewhere. Oh no, did it actually... I closed you up. No, there it goes. So you can see how it's kind of like, it's difficult to, sculpt a little bit, but it's definitely something, if you can get like a little test jar of it, it's interesting if you guys like making stuff. And it just has a really weird consistency. Like, my camera doesn't capture it well enough, but it's like, it's just strange. But it stays movable, and it's like foam. So it's interesting stuff. And let me just make sure that I close this again, because I really don't need it carrying on me. This stuff is air dry, so do not leave it open. I definitely recommend keeping it in the bag that it comes in and the sealed jar, just to be sure it does not dry out. Because if it does, you wasted 15 bucks on a giant piece of plastic that you can't use. And then this stuff is kind of similar, but I actually liked it a little bit better. This is actually, strangely enough, from Michaels, and it's really similar. It's a little bit squishier than the TNT stuff. And, by the way, you can press this stuff into molds, actually. This stuff has an even weirder consistency. You can see how odd it is. You know, I might actually end up using some of this. I might use this on the bottom of his jaw and just see how it turns out. Because I forgot how interesting this stuff is. I ended up liking this stuff more than the TNT stuff, which is funny because people, you know, shit on Michaels all the time for having crappy materials. But this stuff was really interesting, and it wasn't that expensive. I think this whole thing was, I don't know, 15 bucks or something like that. Wasn't bank breaking at all, and it didn't have that deflated look that I didn't like about the TNT stuff. But again, that could have been my bad. Like, I'm not gonna say don't buy the TNT stuff because I haven't used it enough to really make a decision yet. It's just what happened to me the first time that I used it, and I need to experiment with it more, which I will in the future. I'm gonna leave this stuff out because I might actually play with it. And then lastly, I have this stuff, which is $10 a jar, because I left the sticker on it, so I actually know this. And I found this at a hobby shop, and what it's actually for is when you see those miniature tables where people have like trains and stuff set up, and they usually have the environments are all like paper mache or something like that. This fills in cracks and you can shape it and stuff, and it also has a really weird consistency, but it's not really like a foam. It's like it's like a dry putty. It's really hard to describe. It's different than the other stuff. It's kind of powdery, but it sticks together and you can barely see it because my light is shining in it. But it dries really quickly and it's sandable and paintable. The only thing that I don't like about it is it's not very reliable in terms of it can crack. If you put it on something that needs to move, it will crack. What I have found to do instead with this stuff, because I have the easiest access to this stuff because I go to the hobby shop that sells this stuff all the time, is when you put this on EVA foam, because it will go on EVA foam and you can use it to sculpt little details. EVA foam will bend, so this will crack. What you can do though is do what you're gonna do, you know, lay down the EVA foam, sculpt this on it, seal it with something like Mod Podge or just, you know, whatever, and then cover it with Plasti-Dip. A couple layers of Plasti-Dip, and you won't actually be able to see the cracks or anything. It will still crack on the inside, but as far as I can tell, I've done a lot of testing with this. I'm actually doing Vandal's toe claws with this stuff and EVA foam and Plasti-Dip, and I have beaten the crap out of those claws for testing, and I've done it continuously. Like, I'm not just like, I didn't step on them once and then left them alone. Like, I've been stepping on them. Just, you know, for testing, if I'm going to a con, people are probably going to step on his feet. And so it actually, it holds up as long as you do other stuff to it. You just have to remember that you do have to cover it with other stuff to make it stronger, because by itself it will crack. So that's a little bit of a downside, but it depends on what you're going to do with it. And this, on the other hand, is really hard to break. And since people like to mess with the teeth on costumes, I figured I'm just going to use some of this Magic-Sculpt. Because it's, like I said, it's resin, so it's it's hard plastic. Bye.